Hello everyone, my name is Sam. I'm a recent VRUC grad and I currently work as a GIS technician at Marlborough Lines. Before you raise your pitchforks, I know I shouldn't be in the Southern Conference. Turns out I cannot read a simple list very well, but it seems like I ended up in the better of the two anyway. A bit of background for you. Marlborough Lines is the owner and operator of the electricity distribution network for the Marlborough region. Think Orion, Main Power and Otago network. If they don't ring a bell, we own the infrastructure that provides power to anyone who needs it in the region. So today I'm going to talk to you about close approach permits, their importance, especially to Marlborough Lines, and how GIS has helped improve the collection and presentation of the associated data. If you drive through Marlborough, you'll notice the region's low-lying valleys and coastal hills are dominated by the wine industry. More specifically, the vineyards where the grapes are grown. These vineyards cover just under 28,000 hectares, equating to roughly 70% of the total area covered by vineyards nationally. Vineyards tend to utilise large machinery such as harvesters and tractors to both maintain the vines and harvest the grapes. Additionally, many of the vineyards in Marlborough are intersected by overhead power lines, roughly totaling 455 kilometres in length. Now, when you combine heavy machinery, tight timeframes, and electrical lines, you get a few poles and the conductor harvest along with the grapes. Naturally, we don't want this, and is a prime example of why close approach permits were introduced. A close approach permit is required when it is vital for a mobile plant, such as a harvester or digger, to breach the 4-metre exclusion zone placed around all overhead electric lines. This was established in the New Zealand Electrical Code of Practice to help increase the safety of workers who are operating equipment near the power lines. It also helps reduce the number of incidents that occur, decreasing outage time for the network and damage to equipment. The permit process requires operators to get permission from the network owner, such as Marlborough Lines, in order to breach this exclusion zone and work closer to the overhead line. Here they must prove to MLL that they have identified all the hazards when operating close to the lines, such as a rise in the landscape, the sag in the lines, and moving parts on the equipment, like when you unload a harvester. It then has to be clear that they have taken the necessary precautions to counter these hazards. This could be having a route plan, training operators to make them aware of these hazards, and not completing certain vehicular movements when near the line, like dumping a load of grapes. Once satisfied, Marlborough Lines will give the user a permit, specifying the distance the worker can legally operate to the line. This only lasts a certain amount of time, requiring the operator to apply for it fairly regularly. As the owner and operator of the distribution network for Marlborough region, it is our main focus and responsibility to provide electricity in a safe way to the public. This is why close approach permits are of the utmost importance to Marlborough Lines. Along with many other health and safety measures, this permit allows us to ensure the safe operation of heavy machinery around our electrical assets and allow us to form solutions from incidents to prevent them from happening again. As a part of this process, we collect key bits of information, such as the vineyard's name, the associated winery, contact details, and what stage of the permit process its application is at. This last part is important as it helps us here at MLL keep track of who has a permit and who needs one in order to carry out its harvest. Often a diagram of the vineyard the permit is sent for comes along with the application. This information is later used by a field crew member who goes out and inspects the property before the permit is granted. Originally, this information was stored in many different applications. The attribute information, such as the vineyard name, contact details, and permit status, were held in an Excel spreadsheet, only accessible to a few key individuals directly involved in the permit process. Spatial data, such as the vineyard extent and location, was stored separately from the attribute information and was held as a PDF along with the permit application. Because the information was stored separately from one another, it significantly reduced the usability of the data we were collecting. It also made it difficult for different business groups here at MLL from accessing the information for other business requirements, such as our controllers, who are the first point of contact during the outage event. This is why we ultimately decided to trial the dashboard. It looks like a perfect fit as it combined the spatial data with the attribute information and displayed it as one easy to access source of information. To begin with, we effectively made a copy of our current circuit model, simplifying it to only contain parts that were necessary for this application. These included all the key components such as poles, overhead lines, and underground cables, etc. By adding a simplified model, it not only increased loading times, it also reduced the complexity of the final map, making it clearer for the end user. Additionally, property information was added. Secondly, we required a layer to represent the vineyards. At first, we thought this would be relatively simple, but it turned out not to be. We had to start from scratch, building a spatial register of the vineyards within the Marlborough region. This brought with it further complexities, such as land sales and subdivisions. While the tools used to carry out the processing of the data were not overly complex, such as copy features, cut polygons, and georeferencing, they were vital and simplified the process significantly. The georeferencing feature was especially useful as it allowed us to take the vineyard maps and overlay them onto the image to create accurate polygons of the vineyards. This is particularly important as a large block of land may have multiple land uses across it and only a portion of it impacted by the NZECP. We then took this map and constructed a dashboard in ArcGIS Online. All attribute fields were made searchable to increase the likelihood that a property would be returned. This was important as when inquiries are made, in many instances, the person inquiring may only have limited information to go on. It also made so when a vineyard's polygon is selected or searched for, a pop-up appears, containing all the key attributes. You can also cycle through this pop-up to get the property information. To improve the dashboard's effectiveness, some key statistics were placed on top of the map using the dashboard overlay. The total number of vineyards which require close approach permits, and a pie graph showing the split between the different permit statuses. The permitting process is often time sensitive, so a table of the vineyards with an implied status was added. This table acts as a reminder and is useful for keeping track of how many are needed to be processed, especially prior to during the busy harvest season. This dashboard was established as a trial to see its effectiveness at displaying the close approach information. It is evident that this method is an outstanding improvement from the previous method, but there are still many features of the dashboard and ARC that will increase the usability of the data even more. One direction we are looking into is either setting up a system that will notify the interested parties that their permit is about to expire, or getting the permit status to automatically reset to yet to apply once it expires. We are also looking to track incidents in order to establish a record over time. This would allow us to identify vineyards who are seemingly having more incidents involving our electrical assets. The benefit for this is that it may highlight a pattern and help identify a reason the incidents are occurring. Once identified, we can come up with a solution with the vineyard to implement preventative measures in the future and decrease the level of risk to the public. There is still a long way for this dashboard to go, and the information we are collecting is constantly changing. That being said, through our limited testing, it has proven to greatly increase the accessibility and usability of our data relating to close approach permits. It will also be interesting to begin applying this to other information streams, with some business groups voicing interest after seeing the Close Approach database and dashboard. Even with Close Approach permits, incidents still occur. Someone maybe just be having a bad day and forget to check something on their way to lunch, flattening a pole in the process. Unfortunately, this is what happened just a week ago. Thankfully, no one was injured, but around 120 customers lost power, including a couple wineries, for multiple hours. The lesson learned from this is if you don't take the time to make a necessary check, your lunch will be even later or off the cards altogether. Thank you.